Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new stream of the Citizens Odyssey. And I have with me today Alex. Well, the correct pronunciation is Aulux, but I hope it's okay with Alex. Alex is the co-founder of Maya Protocol. Alex, hi. Welcome to the show, man.
Hi, thank you so much for having us, Sergey.
Very glad having you on. I be honest with you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know a lot about Maya, but hopefully you can help me to disciple it and all the listeners to understand why they need it, what does it do, and where is it heading. So maybe first of all, I'm gonna ask you to introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, anything else you want to add to that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Alex. I live in Mexico, a proud Mexican. You'll notice that with the name of our token and our protocol. I have a background in software development and just like scalable business models, startups, stuff like that. I majored in biotech engineering, so also engineer at heart. I don't code though, although I can read code. That we have our other co-founder called Itzamna for that, and he is our tech lead and doing all the Golang development. And yeah, we started Maya 2 years ago, just because we loved what Thorchain was doing and thought we need to bring redundancy to that cross-chain technology ecosystem. We've been working ever since, and very excited for launch now in just 3 weeks.
I hate unmute buttons. Sorry, I always say that. I'm waiting for the new cool unmute button to appear. So when you say launch in 3 weeks, when I go to Maya's website and to Maya's docs, there's quite a history. So maybe you could talk a little bit about the history of Maya as well, how it all started, how it all came to existence, because there is a lot more than 3 weeks that you have left until launch. That I can see the history of Maya is much wider and much bigger. So
Sure. Well, 2 years ago, essentially what we saw was Thorchain was going a bit unnoticed, and we didn't like that. And we just think that what Thorchain is doing is so big in the cross-chain space. For those of you who don't know, Thorchain is a Cosmos SDK based chain that is used to do or facilitate cross-chain swaps through different types of chains. So you can have UTXOs like Bitcoin and Doge. You can have EVMs like AVAX and Ethereum. You can have any sort of chain to be, as long as it has a memo. So you can literally swap Bitcoin to ETH, no questions asked, no permissions asked, no KYC, AML, anything, and all fully transparent, all with full custody of your funds before and after the swap. So literally a work of art, and we think it's just so important. We need to bring redundancy to it. Like I wouldn't fly in a plane with just one engine, right? You want two, just in case one goes down, you can land with the other. And that's kind of the rationale behind. And we just started to get to work. The initial kind of goal was just a vanilla fork, be a friendly fork, not looking to vampire away any liquidity or anything. Just a fork, launch, and then see what we do. Go the typical IDO route and work on that. It's not easy, even just that, since Thorchain is huge. It's over 120,000 lines of code. So this is not a few lines of code smart contract. This is a behemoth. And it's also complicated because you're running your own security and your own nodes, and it's a full system in itself. Whereas, a smart contract like Uniswap, the security is inherited by Ethereum, right? They don't need to care too much about the economical security of the funds. So because of that, we got to work. We reached the milestone of having like a stationnet set up, and we started to get to know people from the ecosystem, like the guys who were at Thorstarter, some of the other user interfaces, and people involved in the development of Thorchain over the years. And we got to the conclusion, we did have a few ideas of what we could add to the space in terms of more capital efficiency, maybe some ideas for launch, maybe bringing some smart contracts to the game. But we meant to first launch and find about that later. So do that later. But in talking with people in the ecosystem, we found out that we should probably first do that differentiation and then launch with the fairest launch possible, which we will get to, and we will live in 3 weeks time. And so we did, and we got to work, and that's what we've been doing since basically November 2021. All the changes, coding, all of that. We were mostly done around summer, September, something like that, and then got into the audit process with Halborn Security, one of the best security audit firms out there. And the audit process was quite long since it's so much code. It took us 6 months. You can go and check our audits at our docs.mayaprotocol.com/audits. You'll find the white paper there as well, stuff like that. And we're basically all wrapped up now, just the last few details, and just very excited to finally get to the finish line and launch this baby out that we've been so careful, but also so passionately developing, and now ready to share with you.
So let me, there's a couple of questions I have, but like I said, the goal, this is what I said before the recording was started. So to anybody who's watching this right now, or whether it's live or recording, I did say to Alex, my goal here is to try and to make Maya more relevant. So I have some very simple questions here prepared, but they might be a little bit annoying. I'm going to apologize in advance, but their goal is very precise. So let's pretend, let's play a little game. I have heard of crypto before. I know what Bitcoin is. I heard Ethereum before. I might have not heard Cosmos before. I might not heard IBC before. I might not heard the word smart contract before. What is Maya protocol? Explain to me. Now, I'm not a child. I'm not a 5-year-old. No need. I am an adult. But my education is average. I'm not super computer literate. I do understand how things work. I do understand more or less what blockchain is. Let's play devil's advocate. Explain to me Maya protocol from this perspective, please.
Yeah, great. Well, if you're an adult, you probably traveled, and if you've traveled, you probably had to exchange currencies, right? And in that process, you will have found that there are two main ways to change currencies. So you have dollars, and you require Mexican pesos, or you require the euro, or you require yuan. So the two main ways to do that is, number one, you can just find someone to do that exchange with. And that's a lousy process, because you need to negotiate, you need to find that they want to liquidate as much as you need. You might need 2 or 3 people to liquidate your full position and to do that exchange. So it's a lousy process, and it can happen, but it's difficult. The second process is using an exchange house, right? A currency exchange place where you will go and they will have a rate, and you just go ahead and in person just do the exchange with them. The benefit with them is they probably have quite a bit of liquidity, or even a ways to source more liquidity in case you really want to do that often and with large quantities. Now you will find a problem though. You know Bitcoin, and you know we're trying to do decentralized things here. So when you're trying to do both, how can we do it anonymous, but also permissionless? So you don't need to ask the person to do the exchange, it just happens. But also that there's not one person choosing the exchange rate, because here you're trusting the exchange house that the rate is fair, and that is what should happen, and that's what's available, right? So how do we make it trustless? And that's where a concept started called AMM quite a few years back, which is essentially a way for pooled assets to find their own market price by assuming that both sides of the equation are equal and letting arbitrage take care of the price setting in comparison with the market. So that's just a bit of mumbo jumbo to say the price is set in a decentralized, trustless manner, right? And that's the exchange rate for the market. That's the best exchange rate you can find. So the thing or the magic that Thorchain and Maya do is to do this between different chains, assets in different chains. So Bitcoin, Ethereum. So being able to swap BTC for ETH without trusting a centralized party, without losing custody of your funds, trusting that the exchange rate is the right one, and trusting that the exchange will be served fairly and quickly, and with always liquidity available for you. So that's what Thorchain and Maya does. And it sounds so simple. There's two types of people when I talk about this. The people that say, "Oh, that you should have been able to do that since, I don't know, 2010." Whereas there's other people that say, "No, it's impossible. You can't do it. It's different networks. It doesn't work." And both would be wrong. Thorchain was able to achieve this only in 2021, around April. So really, really not that long ago. And but it is possible today. And you can go on today to www.thorwallet.org, which is a user interface that facilitates transactions using Thorchain in the backend. And they will soon also allow for swaps on Maya in the backend. And if you use Trust Wallet, actually, this excites me a lot. If you use Trust Wallet on your iOS or Android, you'll now see that very recently there's a button called Swap in there. And if you click it, it will allow you to swap to ETH and so many other coins. And you'll see, like, what is this? It's Thorchain in the backend. And Thorchain doesn't need to be like fully recognized, and you don't even need to think or know or understand that you're using Thorchain, but you are. And that's routing liquidity in the backend. And just as you use your bank card, and it might be Visa and might be MasterCard, and you don't really care, that's essentially what Maya seeks to be, the Visa to their MasterCard. And have just two options available for redundancy, for reliability, for just also finding other types of use cases, liquidity, and markets, and allowing banks, in this case would be user interfaces, like Trust Wallet, like Thor Wallet, like many other out there, to just have both available for routing liquidity. So that's kind of the simple, I hope, way to explain it. A currency exchange system, cross-chain between different networks and ecosystems, that it doesn't require much trust.
Well, what if I went even further? Let's carry on playing the game. Now, I mean, you have explained it to me. I mean, you did use a lot of terms which, in my opinion, require some financial background, like, liquidating positions and IMMs and so on and so forth. But I think that it makes sense. I think, and it makes sense what you guys doing. And but let's go in further. Why would anyone today in the world, and I'm not talking about crypto users, let's forget about crypto users for a second, because the world isn't just made of crypto users. And again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but I really want to understand, to get to the bottom of it. So what problem, is Maya solving? Because in terms of, to answer, we're solving cross-border payments in this case. But for a normal person, cross-border payments exist and they don't require solutions, right? As far as like the average person out there is concerned. So what real problem is Maya protocol solving from your perspective, and why would it help people for a better cross-chain or cross-borders or cross-bank solutions?
Yeah, well, on the one hand, this is a heavily infrastructure side project. So it won't necessarily directly change the lives of many people, but indirectly behind the kitchen, it will. For the simple fact that it's routing liquidity across blockchains for the fair market prices to be reflected on everything you use. Just the fact that there will be more liquidity availability without all of these regulations that are starting to take place is just useful for the existence of crypto. Now, if you're just an average American, maybe you don't care too much about it because you already have a lot of financial certainty in your life, right? But that's not the reality across the world. And Americans might live it eventually, but today it is a harsh reality in places like Venezuela, like Argentina, like Ethiopia, like some Asian countries. People don't have financial certainty for many reasons. On the one hand, it's a difficult job market. On the other hand, they are having currencies that are being debased by their governments and heavily inflated to the point that it doesn't even make sense to use their currency because it's just an indirect way to get taxed by the government heavily for their irresponsible use of the government of the nations resources and assets. So if you're that guy, you do truly care about crypto and you do truly care about the different use cases you might need. Now, you might need just to do everyday payments. That's just great for that. You might want to retain stable value, then you use stable coins for that. You might then really just care about reducing the code and protocol risks inherent of smaller market cap chains and of stable coins that are exposed to the USDT reserves or the USDC. What came out yesterday about it might have some exposure to SEC regulation. BUSD had it just this week. So then you maybe want also some Bitcoin, and you want to be able to, jump between them for different use cases that you have in your life. And we are solving here economical freedom. We're solving here separation of money from state. And if we create these very attractive, very useful, very decentralized networks, but we have no way to jump between them in a decentralized fashion, what the hell are we doing it for? We're still going to be relying on central parties. We're still going to have to use Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, whatever. Why? That's not the point. You shouldn't be able to have to log in. You shouldn't be able to give over your passport. It should be digital cash. It should be complete permissionless access. It should be banking the unbanked, right? So that's what we're doing here. It might not benefit every single person at this time, but when shit hits the fan and your government starts to maybe take away property or debase your currency or crank up the taxes unfairly, or you really wish you could have access to crypto in a permissionless way that won't be regulated, that won't be throttled, that won't be with obstacles because you were using Coinbase for it. So we're here to solve an infrastructure problem of how do we really get rid of trust in these parties. Now, there will always be some centralized party usage because there will be fiat on and off ramp, at least as long as there's still fiat around to be talked about. So during that process, centralized parties should be used for fiat on and off ramp because it's hard to find a lot of P2P cash to crypto availability. But for cross-chain exchange, use Thorchain, use Maya. You don't need the rest. Anyway, that's what we're trying to solve. And I think it will be more and more apparent as the years go by. More people are onboarded to crypto and more regulation starts to take place that these infrastructure services are required.
We at Citizen Cosmos, I like to say that not bank that banked, but unbank the banked. That's more important for the crypto. It's unbanked all the people that have banks. They don't need it. They really don't need it. But let me ask you like a question. You started to go into that yourself. Now that the use case is understood, and now that it's clear, you mentioned cross-chain without regulations, and you mentioned the lack of regulations. Now, over the last let's say, I'm not even gonna go 10 years back to Mt. Gox or anything like that, but I'm curious in terms of the latest situation that's been happening in the market. I'm talking Kraken, FTX, Coinbase, and so on and so forth. It seems that there are a lot of cool projects out there that try to build decentralized solutions, that try to build solutions that don't require KYC, like run out of my head. For example, the Ethereum Tornado Cache, right? Or localcryptos.com. Okay, there was a KYC story there, but still they got closed. They closed by themselves. So what I'm trying to get at is, because you are, and you said yourself, the fiat on and off ramp isn't as easy, because it seems that the entities, whoever they are, whether it's the SEC or whether it's, I don't know, any other financial regulator out there, it seems that they really are afraid. That it seems that those projects that are building some kind of decentralized solution, end of the day, sooner or later, it seems that all of them go down the same route. Not all of them, it's a bit of a loud overstatement, but most of them seem to go down the ramp of regulation sooner or later. And what's Maya's case in this story? I mean, tomorrow, if worse comes worse and the regulator does come to you, what will be the story? Could Maya, I don't know, say, hey guys, you know what? The validators are out there. I don't know, the network is already decentralized in terms of infrastructure, front end, back end, whatever, and we cannot be touched. Or, I mean, please, your answer, please, Alex. I'm sorry to make it so long, the question.
No worries. Well, that's a very important question. On the one hand, that's true. We won't be running the chain at all. That's a validator node's job, and they are the ones that are actually receiving and routing the funds to service the swaps that the users require. So we don't really have any possession of the funds at all, or any involvement in that process. On the second hand, these nodes are completely anonymous. There's no staking. That there's no delegation. So that means the nodes have no incentive to be known or to market themselves and dox themselves. So these are anonymous nodes that have huge bonds in these reserves. So and all of these assets, and they can run either sometimes on Amazon Web Services, but they can run bare metal, just like a node on Bitcoin can run and a node on Ethereum can run, right? You just need a laptop, a powerful one, but just a laptop. So these nodes are a network, and they can be run anywhere at any time, and they go in permissionless, and anybody can become one. We can have around 120 with the current capabilities. Hopefully we can increase that over time. But that's also, or your question is also, the reason why we're a pseudonymous team. So Alux is not my real name, or team is not doxed in any way. The code speaks for itself, and we're going to launch it, and people hopefully will use it. But it is a difficult time where we will see some intention from governments, at least for the next 3 to 5 years. I think this is the last cycle governments can have a chance of keeping the guinea in the bottle. But after these 3 to 5 years, the guinea will come out. Like, everybody will be using it. It won't be feasible to enforce, and they will just have to let it go and acknowledge that money is not a thing that the state can regulate anymore. And hopefully by then we will be able to dox ourselves and say, hi, it was us, or something. Thankfully, we're also in Mexico, which is a very neutral jurisdiction at this time. And we have people of the team all over the place, not only in Mexico. So yeah, it's a risk. It's not a risk for the protocol. The protocol will run with these active validators in their bare metal nodes anywhere where they can find a place to run it. It is a risk for us personally, but a risk I think that is worth to take in order to accomplish this mission, which is a very important mission because it's our last shot. If we don't do this now, CBDCs will take our place, and CBDCs are no joke, and are coming to measure whether you can spend or not on entertainment because of your amount of allowance you have for the points you earned from being a good or bad citizen. So this is Black Mirror stuff right across the corner, because the technology we created to create digital currencies and to monitor them can be used with a bad intent, with an intent to control, with an intent to maintain a status quo. of the people in power. So we either do this now with the chance we have and really invest in infrastructure for cross-chain technology and for blockchain technology, and might be sometimes a bit more expensive than a centralized service, but it's worth it. You are paying insurance on your freedom. So, or we failed, and we failed miserably, and we were so close to the finish line, and we gave the keys away. So I hope we take the former route, the route that we're trying to accomplish, even if it might be more difficult or more inconvenient or at some risk to yourself. I think that's something I'm willing to delve into, and that's kind of a legacy I want to have. I tried, and maybe I failed, but I tried. So hopefully more people out there try.
Definitely, I think that the trying, is I mean, asking questions. I mean, Socrates and all that stuff, right? I mean, this is if we go back in history. So definitely kudos for that. No, I'm just curious because it's not like I'm trying, to find a place here to for you to fail on a question. It's just questions that a lot of people do ask, and I think that asking questions is definitely what helps you to understand. What's out there sometimes. Alex, what about now that kind of like overlay you've explained it, I'm quite curious as to why Thorchain, why Cosmos, why Thorchain, why Tendermint, why all that? Why not any other protocol out there?
Sure. So I can go the other way around. First question, why Tendermint? Tendermint is very important because it allows for instant finality. And instant finality is something you really, really want if you're doing immediate swaps between chains. You cannot have this kind of block confirmation process when you quickly want to swap from one place to another. So accelerating that, because Bitcoin already has block confirmation, ETH already has block confirmation, and you add a block confirmation layer between them, very lousy, doesn't work. So you need instant finality, and Tendermint technology is the right thing for that. For those of you who don't know, Tendermint, or Ignite kind of being renamed, is a consensus mechanism that is a Byzantine fault tolerant POS mechanism that essentially requires 67% consensus on a block before being signed. And as soon as the block enters the chain, it's already confirmed. So it's final. That's it, right? And that is super good if you're doing a DEX design. Now, why Cosmos? Well, Cosmos SDK is a absolutely useful tool that already abstracts away a lot about the account management and the transaction management and the balances management. So it abstracts that away a lot. And it's also designed in a modular way that allows you to bring a lot in from your own design without breaking stuff. So Cosmos SDK, a killer technology for many things, which is why you'll see a lot of Cosmos-based chains out there today. And then the last question, then why Thorchain? Well, we believe Thorchain has the right design for doing this cross-chain swap facilitation. They don't use bridges, which carry a lot of risk. They don't do hard pegging, which also carries its own risks. It's just immediate cross-chain, permissionless, trust minimized swaps between different chains. So with that in mind, they also have the right economic security assumptions that we were able to manipulate for our own ideas. And in general, and you'll see this very soon, they have the formula to bring over most of the current functionalities of central exchanges, like lending, like order books, like perpetuals, to a DEX cross-chain design in a flawless manner. That is with always availability of liquidity. So we just thought it was very powerful and the right formula, and that's why we decided to work on the code base.
And correct me if I'm wrong there, but the Terra technology is also in the picture, right?
More the Cosmos. We started with Terra, but after their collapse, we actually turned over to just a Cosmos SDK barren chain, where we've worked a few things on top of it. And that's for our smart contract layer. So we will be running Maya and something called Aztec chain. And they're both parallel, they're not synchronized. So they're all kind of independent. But Aztec nodes need to be a Maya node already. And the good thing about Maya nodes is they're heavily bonded and they have this huge stake in the network without delegation. So they have the same nodes. They also communicate by IBC, which is the kind of native way for Cosmos chains to swap or kind of route assets between each other. And we also have a Bifrost, which is the way Thorchain connects with other chains. So we have triple redundancy between them. But Maya remains without smart contracts, which is good. You want a very safe, very strict and rigorous Maya because you're handling these external assets. And Aztec has smart contracts where you can have permissionless building and coding and much more kind of entrepreneurial spirit and fail fast mentality in that chain, which is at an arm's length, right? And that's good.
You mentioned IBC, and I know from out there, well, because I'm a bit of a degen. But apart from that, I know I recently been speaking to Chad actually, and Chad has been on our show twice recently. And I know that Thorchain and IBC are not big friends. So question, since you're building on top of Thorchain, will the Maya protocol itself, not just Maya and Aztec, but the Maya protocol itself, will it be IBC enabled?
No, only with Aztec.
No.
So the IBC is kind of a fancy bridge, if you can think of it, which is acknowledged by both chains in a kind of handshake agreement in both codes, but it can be exploited as well, right? And it can be used with bad intent. Now here in Maya and Aztec, it's not a problem because Maya and Aztec have the same nodes and share the same token. So that's kind of it's not a handshake agreement. They're essentially a joint venture, if you want to see it that way. And they're both very kind of dependent on each other in interests. So we have no problem with having Maya an IBC connection to Aztec, but it's kind of one-sided. Assets that live in Maya can go to Aztec and back, but assets that are born on Aztec or brought to Aztec cannot go to Maya if they weren't kind of originated there already. So Cacao and Synths can go to Aztec and back, but an Aztec token that somebody builds with a smart contract cannot go back upstream. So it's kind of a one-way connection in that regard, keeping Maya safe. Now, Chad, big shout out to him, great guy, one of the builders on Thorchain, had a mastermind behind a lot of the futures that you will be seeing rolling out to Thorchain. He's right to say that IBC is not the right model because it's opened up to this exploit of inherently being a bridge. And you don't want that. You want native swaps. So when Thorchain supports Cosmos Gaia, like today they do, you can swap Atom for Bitcoin, it doesn't use IBC. And that's how Maya will do it as well. When we connect to Kujira or to Osmosis, we will do it through Bifrost, not through IBC. Aztec, though, although they have the only kind of direct connection to Maya, Aztec will be IBC enabled to the rest. To come into Aztec, work with our smart contracts there and the builder smart contracts, but they cannot go upstream to Maya. If Osmosis wants an integration with Maya, they have to do it through Bifrost in the kind of classical Thorchain way.
Well, what if somebody who you dependent on, like Osmosis, for example, because obviously I'm assuming that would be a very big income of liquidity for you, or an outcall of liquidity, refuses to do that? What if they say, hey, we only are up for IBC, and what will you do in this case?
Well, the case of IBC, it must be a handshake agreement. In the case of a Bifrost, it's actually kind of permissionless, because what a Bifrost is doing is having Thorchain have ownership of a wallet. Thorchain or Maya have ownership, their nodes own a wallet in Osmosis through a threshold signature scheme, which is kind of a multi-sig, but more fancy, on Osmosis, and just use that to receive and send funds. So what Osmosis would have to do to kind of say, I don't want Maya at all, which would be some information for us to maybe not integrate them. But if we really did want to, they would have to start censoring osmosis and start censoring wallets, which probably goes against their own mission and would kind of backfire terribly. So that's the beauty also of Thorchain and Maya. When we support Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever else we support, we don't have to ask them for permission. It's using just the normal create a wallet and send funds inherent of the design. And the only way Ethereum can stop Thorchain or Maya from receiving and sending ETH is by starting to censor wallets, which as a blockchain is kind of the worst thing you can do. So hope that was cleared up.
Well, there was a lot of blockchains. I agree with you. A lot of blockchains have been censoring wallets, including, I'm not going to mention names here, but including names, big household names we know. And I mean, even with mentioning names, Ethereum comes to mind and Ethereum Classic comes to mind, but it's a bit different, of course, the case scenario there. But still, I have an off-top question for you, Alex. Is there a dog I can hear in the background?
Yeah, and
I want to see him.
Back from a run.
I want to see her. Let's see her. Okay. Let's see her, man. Come on. Let's see her, man. Come on. Ah, linda, che fofinha. Então, Kai. Che linda, bella. Beautiful. What's her name?
Kyla.
Kaya. Does she own any tokens at all? Does she have any digital footprint?
All of mine. Everything that's mine is hers.
I love it. Yeah, cats and dogs seem to win against crypto and even against boobies. I apologize to say that word out loud, but it seems to be the best content creation tool in the world. It's cats and dogs. It really wins against anything. Going back to Maya protocol, though, let's talk a little bit about tokenomics. I know that reading your documentation, it's not the most simple, straightforward part. So if you could, in a few words, talk about the tokens, and considering you have Cacao and an Aztec chain. So if you could put it in a 101 for me, please.
It actually is a bit simple. It's just when you get to the details that you need to be very clear, and that it might look complex, but it's not really that much. We essentially have Cacao. Cacao is a utility token. It's what you use to transact, to pay fees, to do everything. And it's all in the pools from the get-go. So 90% of Cacao is in the pools after the liquidity auction, which is the way we launch fairly. And it's in the pools together with assets. In the AMM, just as the asset pair, right? And it all starts there. So in a way, it's also a reference of value. When you're swapping Bitcoin to ETH, you actually go through Cacao. And both exchange rates are taken into account, the Bitcoin Cacao and the Cacao ETH, thus Bitcoin ETH, right? So that's it. 90% of the Cacao is giving away into the pools at the beginning, and 10% goes into a reserve for protocol liquidity and impermanent loss protection, right? And that reserve is controlled by nodes. So all very clean and simple. Now you just will notice that there's nothing for the team. And that's because the team and investors and developers and advisors and everybody involved and contributing to Maya will get a percentage of the revenues. And that's beautiful because it means for every $9 that we make the network generating value, we will earn 10% of the fees. So that means we're not in the business of hyping Cacao or hyping the tokens. We're in the business of getting them used, of getting volume, getting money velocity, right? A lot of exchange, a lot of movement. And this utility will bring us more fees. So we're in the business of generating wealth to the network because we start with zero Cacao, right? And if the Cacao is worth $100, but nobody is using it, we earned nothing, right? Now, this percentage of revenues was just simply tokenized in the Maya chain and tokenized in the Aztec chain as Maya and Aztec tokens. So if you have 10% of the Maya tokens, that means you get 10% of the 10%, so 1% of the revenues of the protocol. And these tokens can generally be transacted as a normal token, and whoever holds a token gets paid a percentage of the fees in cacao every 24 hours. And if you send it to somebody else, now that somebody else has that right to those cash flows. Now that is with a big exception. The founder allocation, so ours, which is around 60% of the supply, is locked. So forever. So we will never be able to sell it. We can just get the cash flow. So we can never really exit this thing. We need to make sure that it remains working and remains generating utility. So that's the gist of it. You have your actually utility, governance, reference of value token that's paired with assets, which is called cacao. That's kind of the rune translation in Maya. And just instead of us getting cacao or rune, we just get a percentage of revenues that is tokenized as the Mayan Aztec tokens. That's it. Which is good. It's the fairest way we could design these. We have no way to rock or anything. We don't even need vesting because this mechanism in itself is already a success-based fee.
Well, what about and I would, if it was the podcast, I would not ask that question. But since this is the Citizen Odyssey stream, I'm going to ask this. Drops. Where is the money? When do we get free money?
Airdrops, you mean?
Of course.
Okay.
I'm kidding. But so, is there any planned airdrops?
Of course. If you're a Rune owner, because you are a node, an LP, or just holding Rune, self-custody, so not on central exchanges, you have 7% of the Maya allocation will be airdropped to you with some point weighting system. So just find out more on our Discord or on our documentation. If you add liquidity during the liquidity auction on the tier 1 liquidity scheme, which just kind of locks up your position for around 200 days, then you also get another 7% of the airdrop, your share of it. And if you're one of the first few nodes in the system, you also get another 7% of airdrop, obviously prorate to your node bond. There's also 1% going to MayaMask holders, which is our official NFT project, which we launched for community building and has some inherent value to them thanks to this airdrop. And that's it. If you want essentially to get a lot of Maya tokens for yourself, just go and have a lot of Rune ahead of the first snapshot, which is March 6th. Participate in the liquidity auction with a lot of Bitcoin, ETH, and stables, and then run your own node and and buy some masks, and you'll be fully covered. Now, cacao, nobody gets cacao as a kind of airdrop because it's all shared into the pools after the liquidity auction. But it's essentially also kind of a fair drop because it's all given out for free. So how it works is from the 7th to 27th of March, you can add BTC, you can add ETH, you can add stables, and you can even add Rune itself. And after 21 days, we will have accumulated let's say, $20 million or whatever of funds in the pools. We will donate 90% of the cacao into the pools and enable trading. And what you got is not really cacao, it's just the LP units to the pool, right? Now, depending on whether you participated in tier 1, 2, or 3, is if you are going to be locked up for 290 or just 30 days. If you don't like lockups, no worries, we got you. Just wait for the liquidity auction to be over, trading to be enabled, and now you can just get cacao on the pools using, buying it with Bitcoin or ETH, and then also add liquidity in itself, and you can withdraw anytime. So if you're getting cacao for free in the liquidity auction, you'll be required to stay for a while. And if you didn't, then you're fine. Come in, go out, doesn't matter. So that's kind of the whole panorama on all of this.
It's nice. I like it. But before, the obvious question springs up, but I will ask it in a second because I really want to know your opinion about the fees and accumulating value. And one of the biggest problems I personally have noticed in a lot of DeFi protocols, and not even DeFi, forget DeFi protocols. This was a bit of a loud world. In actually most crypto projects, is a very obvious problem. There is no real value.
Capture.
Exactly, there's no real value capture. It's coming either from the printer money. It's either coming from inflation. It's either coming from anywhere, but just not real value. So apart from fees, is Maya protocol planning any other real value capture apart from the fees, which is fair enough, but still.
Yeah. Well, here at Maya, we are real yield maximalists.
Yield thrills. Yield maximalists. Yeah. I like
it. We actually have basically no inflation unless some kind of events trigger slight inflation that can be turned off again when the event goes out. But we're obsessive about real yield here. Cacao has a very direct valuation, which is 1x TVL. So because it's paired in the pools and required to pool the assets and then to bond them, it's always worth at least 1x the TVL Maya has of external assets. And that's kind of your baseline, and it can go up as the fees accrue. So Cacao just is a great kind of value maintainer since it's backed essentially by all of this asset wealth. And you'll see this in Thorchain as well. Thorchain has a similar thing. It's 3x TVL, just for the way their tokenomics are designed, which is very similar. Rune has never been worth less than 3x TVL because it cannot. It just simply cannot with the way it's designed. And then you accrue fees, which is great on top of it. Now, in the case of, so that's a straightforward way to value Cacao. And how will you accrue value then? As Maya, because it's growing in liquidity, because it's growing in utility, it will assimilate more and more TVL. As that happens, that is accrued into your Cacao. So your Cacao will also be worth more and more. On the other hand, the Maya and Aztec tokens, the valuation is also very straightforward. You're getting essentially payouts of Cacao every 24 hours. If you annualize them, you can find, and you compare with the valuation of the Maya and Aztec tokens, you will find a P/E ratio or a kind of a multiple. And then you can just see if that multiple makes sense using some discounted cash flow scheme to value that token. And essentially just the more volume there is, the more value the Maya token will accrue every 24 hours with a payout, which you can liquidate as soon as you get. So both very kind of straightforward, real yield. Where does it come from? From swapping fees. So as people swap and swap and swap, Bitcoin for ETH, ETH for Cacao, Cacao for Rune, Rune for USDC, USDC for Kuji, Kuji for Dash, and that is happening very quickly. They are paying for the right to do that using what is called a sleep-based fee, which is coined by Thorchain as well and works excellently to kind of work against impermanent loss. And these fees are retained by the pool and just is part of what you earn as an LP. So it's all real yield here, all real yield here, not coming from kind of artificial inflation.
In your opinion, though, like a general question, maybe not even related just to Maya or solo to Maya, are there other values for digital protocols to accrue real value apart from fees? Or selling goods, I guess.
Yeah, you have to be providing a service that somebody's paying for, mm-hmm. or you have to be representing some other value that people need. So a synth can have a value if it's redeemable for the synth it's representing, for the asset it's representing. So that's a way you can capture value. So you can't get away with just inflating away and network value, right? Network value is what it's worth if it can be actually monetized by the network. So Ethereum's network value is only worth something because people want to launch smart contracts. People are willing to pay gas fees on it. And thus nodes will be willing to run the thing. But if you're not bringing utility, it's just kind of a serpent eating its tail, and eventually it will get to the head. So it's not sustainable. It's not.
Kind of question that you already answered. I mean, you already said you can provide liquidity. You already said you can launch a node. Other ways to currently join you if somebody's who's going to be watching this is interested in Maya protocol and wants to jump on board. let's say they're not a validator and they're not a LP. Is there any other ways they can already? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, you can do arbitrage also, of course, as well. Essentially, profit off of the market swings in prices. You can also get some savers. Savers is essentially kind of this Thorchain and Maya version of staking tokens in CEXs, in central exchanges, which is you add Bitcoin and get in-kind yield. It's a lower yield than LPs get, but it's you just have single asset exposure and in-kind yield. So that's very interesting. And Thorchain already has it. Their Bitcoin vault is actually completely filled with BTC savers nowadays, which is several millions of dollars. And you can do that as well on Maya. In the future, though, there will also be order books. So for you to put in some stop losses. There will also be lending for you to also leverage your positions, and perpetuals so that you may also short positions and just work in the market. So definitely there will be a plethora of options of DeFi products coming your way on Thorchain and Maya. Maya is still backwards compatible with these sorts of things on Thorchain. So as they develop and launch these new products, we will be able to assimilate them on Maya itself, even though some of the core economic stuff is modified and adjusted.
More or less like last question, not last, maybe. Whoa, there's an alarm. There we go. It was perfect. Perfectly timed. So since the time is perfect, and it says here on my hoodie, I don't know if you can see it. It says here, are you doing this to develop the world or to glorify yourself? And this is the kind of motivational question that I wanted to ask you. What is your? I mean, let's abstract now from what we were talking about at the beginning. I mean, what is Maya and who is it for and what is it solving? Why are you doing this? Why is Alex decided to build Maya? Why on earth not, I don't know, build a house, clean the roads, plant a tree, raise a child, I don't know, anything else? Why this? What's the goal?
Yeah. Well, first off, I love what I do in the sense that I just find crypto technically exciting. But at the end of the day, I'm doing this for the mission I have and that I've mentioned. I do live in a developed world, and I do live in a place where you feel subdued to the powers that be around, right? For us, our life can change with a change of president. It can change with a bad cup. It can change with just a drive to somewhere nearby, right? And I do believe that as the world has become more free, it has become more democratic, it has been more open information-wise and with opportunity-wise, it becomes safer. It also becomes more peaceful. Now, we might be living kind of a local minima of quality of life with so much turbulence, of so much change that we're living in. But the truth of the matter, we're living at the heights of humanity if you compare, to 2,000, 10,000, 50,000 years ago. Borders tend to fall down. Technology tends to be democratized and shared with all. Prosperity ends up being distributed fairly. It just takes time. And I'm here to try to make that process a bit faster. From the corner of the world I can do a dent from. So I can push it in that direction myself, doing all of these. I think borders are really unnecessary. And I think having to ask for permission to use or make use of the funds you earned by working so hard and by adding value to society, you should have the freedom to use it however you see fit, right? So I'm here to help both happen by simply decentralizing the way we do cross-chain exchanges. And it might seem small, it might seem very niche and very specific, but it's the summation of many people doing stuff from their corner of the court that eventually brings on change for everybody else. So that's why I'm doing it, and I hope everybody listening is doing their own small change in whatever they can. And I think we'll just keep on improving as a society and as humanity. Although sometimes it might look like we give 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Yes, we do, but that's how progress works. And we just need to make sure that those steps forward are very firm, and that we fight for every inch that we're pulled back. And we will get very far. So that's why I'm here.
Nice. I like that answer. Alex, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you very much for answering the questions to me, and not just to me, but making, like I said, this more relevant to whoever is going to watch this. It has been like, a good explanation, in my opinion, of what's it for, who's it for, what it's solving, why you're doing this, what are the benefits for users, how they can join. So guys, hopefully it was helpful to whoever who listened it. And again, Alex, thank you very much for answering my questions.
Thank you so much for having us, and see you all on the 7th of March for lunch.
See you.
Thank you so much.
Please don't hang up yet, Alex. Thank you, everybody else. Thanks. Bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.